So isn't that a nice noisy project? Wouldn't that make a nice present for somebody? So welcome everybody, I've got another flashback project for you. I'm going to show you my marble racetrack. I made this a number of years ago and I'm going to walk you through all the details, and by the end of it I'm sure you'll be able to make one too. Matthias Wandel has designed some of the coolest, most intricate marble toys that I've ever seen on the internet. In fact, I'd like to make one of them myself sometime. This was not one like that. This was meant to be a fairly simple and easy to make project. Let me show you some of the details about this marble toy. First of all, it's two-dimensional. I've got a piece of plywood here and all the track pieces mount on that. For all it looks complicated, it's fairly easy to put together. Down at the bottom, I just have a solid piece of hardwood that's just meant to give it some weight so that it's not going to tip over. Okay, so I've got a back, I've got the track, I've got the base, and the other thing I added is I added this bell. When I built this, you could still buy this as a kit from Lee Valley. They don't sell it anymore, but you can buy a little counterbell like this at any sort of Staples office supply type store. Or you could, come up with something of your own, like a little, like the tuna can idea that Matthias Wandel used in his projects. That would make more of a muted thump, sort of. This makes quite a definite ring. Okay, let's talk about the construction. The first thing that you need to do is buy your marbles. I bought these steel ball bearing balls from Lee Valley. You can get marbles, glass marbles, steel balls. You need to get these first because the size of this affects the size of the track. And then the second thing that I would recommend you buy is your bell. Because you need, on this project, you got to start from the bottom and work your way up. So once you've got your marbles, once you've got your bell, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to make a bunch of track. And here, let me see if I can bring this in close to the camera. This is just 3 pieces of wood that I've glued, thin strips of wood that I've glued together. And you make it so that your marbles will run nice and easily through the track. It's not tight, there's still a bit of looseness in there. And now we move to the table saw. I've got steel ball bearings that are 5/8 of an inch in diameter, so I'm making a track that is 3/4 of an inch wide. So I'll take this strip now and I'll rip it down. So with 3 pieces, each 3/4 of an inch wide by 1/4 inch thick, then we run just a thin bead of glue and we can glue this together to make a track. Once this is dry, you can take it, run it over the jointer, and you'll have a bottom that is nice and perfectly smooth. And then you'll have a track that you can work with. You also want to keep 1 piece of 3/4 inch stock so that you can make the ends for your track. And you can take this and fit that in like that. That gives you an end to your track. These sections of track here, I've cut notches along the bottom with a dado blade, or you can just make repeated cuts, and that way you get the little rat-a-tat sound as the marble goes over it. And it's all about making more noise. Okay, you got your marbles, you got your bell, we've made a bunch of pieces of track. So what's next? Let me bring the camera in closer and we'll take a look. So as I mentioned earlier, I recommend starting at the bottom with this project, and the first thing I made is what I call the bell base. So I've got the bell and I mount that to a piece of angled wood here. The angle really isn't that critical. I used spalted wood, that way I could have a bunch of different wood species. Put a little edge around it, and then you've got that. Then the next thing you want is this base. You want a nice heavy piece of hardwood because you don't want this to tip. And I used some walnut, and I used 2 pieces. And as you can see, I've got the back of the project embedded in here. Now there's a real easy way to do that, is that I had 2 pieces of walnut. So I've got 1 piece of walnut here, and I cut the other piece of walnut down to this size. I glued them together, I fitted the piece of plywood in, and then I glued another piece along the back, and voila, it's all nicely embedded. I did fit in a little piece there in between. So with this project, I've said a few times, you need to start at the bottom and work your way up. Now why is that? That's simply because you want to make sure that the balls all drop into this receptacle nicely. On my marble racetrack, I made 1 set of track out of walnut, 1 set of track out of ash, so they make a nice contrasting color. When you start attaching them to the back, you need to start at the bottom and work your way up. Each time you're testing it, take a spring clamp and you attach the track to the piece. You make sure the marble still works, then you can mark it, and then you can glue it on and clamp it or nail it from behind, and then you move on to the next piece. And you put on the next piece of track and the next piece of track, and you work your way up. I made these 2 tracks basically identical. They both have sort of a stair step, a couple of long pieces. There's 2 sets of notch tracks, there's some more zigzag stair steps, and then of course there's the top where it begins. Not sure what else there is to say. So I want to thank you for stopping by today. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. I try to answer as many as I can. If you think I've earned it, please subscribe, tell your friends, like, and do all that sort of stuff that everybody asks you to do at the end of their YouTube videos. Okay, we'll see you next time. Why am I telling you this? It doesn't really matter.